right. Make sure y'all introduce yourselves so they'll know who they're talking to. Y'all have a mic?
I've got one. All right. Hey everybody, I'm Mandisa.
What's up, I'm Jeremy Camp. What's up, I'm Jeremy Camp. Oh, sorry. I'm Ben Callen from Citizen Way. Hi, I'm Darren Miner.
I'm Adam from Audio Adrenaline.
Hey, what's up guys? I'm Danny Gokey.
What's up? I'm Derek Mount, and this is Teddy Bolt from Family Force 5. We're two kids.
All right, let's get this started. Anthony McKay, are you in? Right here? All right. For Jeremy, what was the inspiration behind the song, This Man? And Take You Back.
Oh, two.
You got two.
Which one should I? I'll do This Man.
Yes, both of them.
Well, they're both long.
Either one you want.
What?
Whichever one you want.
Okay. Okay, I shared this the other night, so I'll share it again, because I love the story of this. When I was 16, I wrote the chorus of This Man, and it was one of the first songs I'd ever written. And I think it all stemmed from really coming back to the realization of what Christ did for me and the price that he paid for me. And I remember thinking to myself, would I really take the nails from his hands? Like, would I have done that for what he did for me and really lay my life down for him? And so, remember when I was 16, you're still kind of learning a lot, but I remember that question being, you know, the chorus. I didn't really have a verse. I tried to write a verse, but it never came out. Until 10 years later, about 10 years later, 8 to 10 years later, I sat down and God really started revealing more and more the depth of his love for me and really the depth of what he did. And as I studied God's word more and more, I understood, you know, more and more of what it took for him to go to the cross, you know, and the depth of that. And so I was 18 years later, I wrote all the verses of that song. It finally came out because it was the right time. It wasn't the right timing before. I had to sit on that question. Not that I've still figured it out, I'm still gonna ask myself that question. But God has this right timing for us in the songs that we write, even if it takes 10 years. And I'm thankful that he still stayed on with that song, so.
All right. Okay, Kimberly Miles. Kimberly Miles? Okay, she's trying to be shy. Mandisa. Woo! What was your favorite moment / worst moment of American Idol? And how did it change your life and get you closer to God? Or did it bring you closer to God?
Great question. Actually, my worst moment and my favorite moment are kind of the same thing. My worst moment was, actually I didn't realize it when I auditioned, but after I left the room, after my audition, Simon Cowell made some pretty disparaging remarks about my weight. And anybody who struggles with your weight, like that is probably the most personal thing. It's like the thorn in my flesh that I feel like I defeat and then it comes creeping back again. So it really hurt. And I didn't find out until I was watching the premiere episode of American Idol. And I had no idea he made those comments. I was in a room full of my friends and I was humiliated. Like it was one of the worst moments I've ever experienced. That was the worst moment. It turned into the best moment because we had already gone through Hollywood Week and I was going to see Simon and Ken in about 1 week. And we were being told whether or not we were going to make it to the top 44. So when I got there, the producers really egged me on and said, did you hear what Simon Cowell said about you? And you can rip into him. Whatever isn't appropriate for Family Hour television, we'll just edit out. So I let him know I've got some words for Simon. When I saw him, I said, Simon, I want you to know something. You really hurt me. And I cried. But I want you to know, Simon, that I forgive you. I said, the reason I can forgive you is that Jesus Christ died so that all of my wrongs could be forgiven. I commit to this and grace to you. It was as if the Holy Spirit rushed into the room. Simon's eyes got this big, his jaw dropped. He said, I don't even know what to say to that. And what I love the most is that the Lord allowed that moment to be shown on national television in front of 30 million people. So that's how it turned into my life.
All right. Angie Oler. Right here? There we go. Family Force 5. Was it difficult to be a teen Christian? And if so, how did you handle it? Y'all still look like
We always
teenagers.
debate over who's going to talk because it's sometimes not everyone gets a chance. I had a little trouble hearing you say, was it difficult to be a teen Christian? Is that what
Yeah. How difficult was it being a teen Christian, and how did you handle it?
That's a good question. I mean, I think for Family Force 5, we get asked a lot of questions like that because we kind of still sound like teenagers and look like teenagers and feel like teenagers. We're not. We're a little older than that, but I'm just kidding. I think that's a big part of where our hearts are, is that we want to see people learn to be accepted by being who they are. Because Family Force 5 is 5 weird ADD dudes with very, very different personalities, and we get a lot of messages and notes from kids that are like, man, I'm the weird kid in the youth group or at my school, and like I don't feel like I fit in, and for some reason I like Family Force 5, and we're like, all right, cool, dude, because that's who we are, and that's who we want to appeal to. And I think for me personally, I had like crazy, it sounds kind of embarrassing to admit, but I had really, really bad acne when I was a teenager, and then I definitely had some self-esteem issues with that, and I played a lot of sports, and I had this one year where I just like stunk at every sport for some reason. Like I was great the year before, and then it was just like the worst year on all 3 sports that I played. I think those were moments where I was just really like searching and kind of feeling lonely, and I mean, some of the ways I dealt with it, I had an amazing support system. This youth group, a discipleship group that we met with every week, and they would just pour into all of us, like encouragement, and I think more than anything, just knowing that someone else is going through a harder time or a similar time as you can be really refreshing. So I think our message to a lot of teenagers is to be yourself, because we need you to be your weird self, and that's kind of what we try to do, make weird music.
All right. Bethany Jeffries. There she is. Okay, Audio Adrenaline. Who is the most influential person you have met in your journey?
That's a good question. Well, there's 2. One I met a long time ago. That's my dad, and he's had a huge impact in my life as far as being he's a minister. He's been a pastor for 30 years or something. So he's taught me a lot. And then there's a guy by the name of Toby Mack that I'll never forget it. I was playing one of my first festivals, and I was backstage. We had just finished or whatever, and he comes up to me and he's like, hey man, you play golf? I'm like, and I was like, yeah, and I'm like, this is Toby Mack, and he's talking to me, what's going on? And I'm like, yeah, he's like, hey, I want you to come play in my golf tournament. I'm like, oh, okay. And so I went, and I didn't do too bad, I played pretty good, and so we became friends because of that. And we hung out, and he more and more each time that we would be able to get together would teach me more, and he's become like a mentor and a really great friend to me. So I would say Toby Mack has had a huge impact on my ministry and my life in music.
Yeah. Okay, Jill K. Behind me. Awesome. Okay, this is for Daddy Gokey. In your book, I'm gonna let you go ahead and scream.
Thanks to my one fan out there.
Yeah. In your book, you talk about the role Jeremy Camp played in your life.
Yeah.
What is it like now being on tour with him?
That's a great question. I'm so glad that Jill, thank you for bringing that up, because how do you talk about this without kind of sounding like you're trying to be super spiritual? But so everyone knows Jeremy Camp lost his first wife, and up to that point, I never listened. I didn't know. I knew of his name, didn't know a whole lot of his music. But I remember it was me and my first wife were sitting on the couch at our house, and we were exhausted because through our whole marriage, she was in and out of the hospital, and it just took such a toll on us. And we were really believing God for a miracle that He would heal her, because there just wasn't a lot of hope. And it was about a month before the surgery, and we're just flipping through channels. And I remember I worked a lot. I was a semi-truck driver, and I was a praise and worship leader. And I was sitting on my couch just desperate for hope. And as I'm flipping through the channels, CBN comes on, the 700 Club. And it says, stay tuned as you find a man who lost his wife turning into a ministry that's affecting people's lives. And I just froze. And as I keep it on the channel, they went to a little commercial and they came back, and it was Jeremy Camp, and they're sharing his story and his testimony. And literally in my heart I said, God, don't let this be my testimony. That's exactly what I said. And then a month later, she passed away through 2 weeks in the hospital and surgery. And it devastated me. And while we were in the hospital believing for a miracle, you can get the book and find out more because it's a very extensive story. I remember someone came up to me and they gave me Jeremy Camp's CD, all of them. They said, God told me to give this to you. And I didn't tell anyone what had happened with the 700 Club. And so I ended up taking this music, and I still believe and walk by faith all of a sudden became my anthems in that moment. And especially when the walls came crashing down and there was no hope. And I remember at that point, like just going on walks, just bawling my eyes out, listening to those songs. You know, when you lose a spouse, you feel like something has been amputated away from you. And the two become one is very critical. So to make the whole long story, you can get the book and find out more, but to make, I guess, roundabout, I had a friend who knew B. Haley, who's Toby Mac's drummer, and he said, man, Danny really looks up to Jeremy's music in this time. And I didn't know they were doing this. They said, can you please set up a talk with Jeremy? I mean, I'm a boy from Wisconsin, living in Milwaukee. I haven't tried out for American Idol yet. No one knew who I was. And somehow, some way, Jeremy Camp happened to be off the road and I happened to be in Nashville, Tennessee. And you said God told you to do it because, I mean, how many requests do you get? And he sat down with me and we both cried talking about our stories. What I walked away from that meeting was that God was going to do something great. And then 2 weeks later, I tried out for American Idol. And then the whole story went on national TV. And now a ministry of hope has been built out of that. And now a homeless family ministry has been birthed out of that. And so to answer your question, it's been great because to me, I see something full circle. Because what God promised me 8 years ago that it wasn't the end truly became the testimony. It is not the end. And people need to understand that because we walk through different walks. We're here tonight. A lot of situations are represented. But can I tell you something? God knows what you're going through. He knows the struggle. And he's got moments of hope and moments of breakthrough just like that for yourself. And so hang on to those moments. I literally stand up here and I'm like, I'm amazed. And I don't say that, but I really am amazed because this group of people that I work with, I remember seeing them in concert in 2008, right after I lost my wife, Family Force 5, and I bought their album immediately. Now I'm touring with them as well. And, so anyways, I can say this about everyone. So thank you, Joe. It's good to see you.
So Danny, do you enjoy touring with Jeremy?
No. No, of course I do. It's been so great touring with Jeremy. It's the unsaid thing. I haven't told you, but it's incredible because to me, I'm a walking testimony. And I remember that moment. And the Bible is very clear about remembering moments of hope because those moments ain't always going to be there. You have to hang on to it. Like David said, he said, I would have lost heart had I not believed to see the goodness of God in the land of the living.
Amen.
You want to pass the offering plate? I need help. All right.
Thank you, Pastor Danny.
Yes, sir.
Ashley C. Ashley, you're front? All right. A Citizen Way. How did you get where you are, and how did you get from singing in high school to singing in front of thousands of people?
I remember 1987, 88. My dad's a pastor, my mom's a musician. So I grew up in the church singing, "Oh, great," and all that stuff. And the old hymns. And I remember going to a Petra concert. And they were singing, "Beyond Belief, Beyond Belief." And that to this day is some of my favorite songs. But I remember there was a very specific thing that was planted in me from the Holy Spirit. And from day one, nothing else made sense other than what I'm doing now. And I think that's truly because my parents prayed for me. My dad came from a really crappy background. He didn't have a dad. He lifted me up to heaven when I was born and said, "Lord, he's yours. Teach me how to raise him." And he prayed for me every day. My mom did too, and they still do. And I think that's why. It's because it's by the grace of God. And when all I know how to do is the Father tells me, just lift up my son Jesus and I'll take care of the rest. And so that's why I'm here.
Amen. All right, we're going to save the best for last. Derek Meyer. What? Maddie A. Are you here? Maddie.
This is gonna be good.
Maddie right here. I hear you. Okay. What inspired you to start your career? For $1,000.
What inspired me to start my career? I think for me, it's hard because it's a lot of stuff, but I think for me, I grew up in a household where my mom, first off, I never thought I'd be doing Christian music ever. Like just, never, because I always kind of thought Christian rap was like a little hokey, like it's like corny, like, I always thought it was, and that was just me. And I think for me, like, I grew up in a family where, you know, my mom was in church, but my stepdad was addicted to drugs, and my dad was addicted to drugs. And he actually, you know, so I grew up seeing a lot of different things, and for me, I had some real issues. And it wasn't until I think I met Lecrae, and I was a new believer at the time, and I had never even heard the word discipleship. I'd never heard it. And this guy took me under his wings and poured his life. Like, I mean, me and my wife, I had a new wife and all this stuff and had all this baggage with me. And he taught me how to lay my burdens at the feet of the cross, taught me how to feed myself with the scriptures and things like that. And I think for me, what motivates me in my career is there's people that have parents that are addicted to drugs, that have been abused, that have been hurt, that have been broken, and I feel like the gospel that has changed and wrecked my life is powerful for them, and that's what I want to do with my music. So that's what starts it, and I'd say that's what propels it and keeps it afloat, and the moment that doesn't keep it afloat will be the moment I hang up the mic, so.
Amen. Well, if y'all haven't heard Derek Meyer, make sure you get his music, share it with your youth, because there's so much bad stuff out there. We need to hear more of it. Awesome. Give it up for our artists. Come on, boy, give it up! Okay, so where are all my silver wristband wearers?